Joining us now with a lot more is former Democratic Congressman Bob Brady from Pennsylvania. And also with us is Tom Bonier, an award-winning political strategist from TargetSmart, and Peter Baker, the chief White House correspondent from the New York Times. So, Peter, former President Obama and President Biden are set to hold a joint event this Saturday in Philadelphia, back to Philadelphia, ahead of Tuesday's election. Of course, the president and Vice President Harris were just there last Friday night. What are we going to expect from their messaging in these closing days?
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating event. We haven't seen the former president and his former vice president, the current president, together very often. And this will be, I think, a way of trying to motivate Democratic voters to get out, to drive up excitement, especially in Pennsylvania, probably one of the 2 or 3 most important Senate races in the country this year. And one of the few places where President Biden has actually gone where there is a competitive race. Most competitive states he stayed away from, Pennsylvania being the exception. Of course, he was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. But it'll be interesting to see the two next to each other. I mean, President Obama remains a star for many Democrats. It's always, of course, a danger to speak at a rally where President Obama is speaking if you're not as talented an orator as he is. But I think the idea is to say that the party is unified despite its differences of opinion over progressive versus moderate ideas over the years, and that what really matters at this point for the Democrats is stopping the Republicans from taking seats like the one in Pennsylvania.
Congressman Brady, you're a great vote counter in Pennsylvania and especially the Philadelphia turnout. We've talked many times about that. So what are you seeing in Pennsylvania in this key race of Fetterman versus Oz? Is Fetterman going to get enough support out of Philadelphia and, importantly, out of those suburban collar counties to offset what's going to happen in the middle of the state and out west? Yeah.
Absolutely. But first of all, you can take the lady out of Philadelphia, but you can't take the Philadelphia out of the lady. You know what I mean?
I'm with you. I'm all in.
Thank you.
Critical game tonight.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I think that without question, Fetterman will be fine. He'll get an extremely large vote out of the city of Philadelphia, which will carry some of the other collar counties and some of the counties out west to get enough for him to defeat Oz. He had a little issue. He had his little stroke, and it showed in the debate. But he's a fighter, and we're a fighter, and we're fighters, and we're going to continue fighting for him. And he has good issues. I mean, the main thing that our Wizard of Oz is saying that I got a daughter, I got a wife, and I got a granddaughter. And God forbid, when they come home with an issue, an abortion issue, I'm not going to call my elected official. He wants me to call my elected official. I'm not calling my elected official. And that's resonating big time with the abortion issue. So I think that Fetterman is going to do well. There's a lot of questions that Oz didn't answer. He didn't answer about the Lindsey Graham bill. He didn't answer about the Trump insurrection. He never talked about the minimum wage. He just has no platform whatsoever other than he's moving in from New Jersey and other houses that he owns. He makes the point that he's been to a lot of places in the state of Pennsylvania. Yeah, for the first time, he's been in a lot of places in the state of Pennsylvania, and probably the last time. So I think that John Fetterman, is doing a good job. He's fighting like as hard as he can. He had a little issues with the debate, only because again he had to read off a monitor. But his doctors are saying he can perform. He can very well do his duties as a United States Senator, and he will.
Well, Tom Bonier, you've been following the Pennsylvania voting very close, the early returns at least. And when I was in Pittsburgh last week, the Allegheny County officials and local congressmen were telling me there's been a huge early vote and that they believe a lot of it is Democratic. What are you saying?
Yeah, it's really remarkable what we're seeing in the early vote, really around the country. But when we talk about Pennsylvania, and you look at, we know the early vote was very Democratic in 2020 in Pennsylvania. It was a big part of how Joe Biden carried the state. And this is remarkable. Pennsylvania is one of the few states where the Democratic share of the early vote right now is actually bigger than it was in 2020. So that's definitely a good sign for Democrats there with Fetterman. And we're seeing similar things around the country. It's all consistent with a very close battle between each side for control of Congress.
There's no way to know whether these are Democratic ticket splitters.
That's right.
People who are concerned about Fetterman, but, want to vote for Josh Shapiro for governor because they really don't like Doug Mastriano's extremism, let's be frank, but are still nervous about Fetterman.
That's right. In the end, we don't know how they're voting. We can look at this directionally, but the Democratic lead in terms of registered Democrats at this point is about 50 points. So Democrats are building this big advantage before Election Day where Republicans are going to have to come from behind. Big part of what Democrats are going to have to look at is a big youth vote on Election Day. But in the end, you're right. We don't know how they're voting.
Peter Baker, one of the other trends that we're talking about, though, is that non-college educated white voters are increasingly are an increasing part of the electorate, and they have tended to be voting more Republican than Democratic in recent cycles.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. That's been a challenge for Democrats, a constituency that historically they have done better on than they have in the last few cycles. They have yet to figure out how to unlock that mystery. That's one of the reasons they thought a Fetterman initially would be particularly appealing to that part of the electorate, as well as other candidates around the country they thought might be more appealing to everyday Americans who don't have college education, who don't have lots of money. And we're going to find out. You know, that's a real beyond this election, that's one of the most important challenges for Democrats going forward is whether or not they have lost these Democrats to the Trumpian populists in a long-term way, or whether this is an aberration. Obviously, Biden came back and won some of those blue states, the blue wall states in the Midwest and Pennsylvania that had been lost to Trump in 2016. But that's we're going to see a lot more in 8 days about that dynamic.
And Tom Bonnier, we're also seeing very close races, of course, Senate races in Georgia and Wisconsin, where the Democrat in Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes, is behind. And we overheard on the hot mic Senator Schumer saying on Friday to President Biden in Pennsylvania that Georgia didn't look good for Warnock to get reelected. What are you saying?
Well, it's interesting. Republicans were sort of flooding the zone the last couple of weeks with a lot of polls that were showing their candidates doing better than some of the mainstream polls showed. And so we're looking at the data. The most important poll is who votes. And when you look at those states, in Wisconsin, we're actually seeing a bigger gender gap, meaning women are turning out at a higher rate in the early vote than they were 2 years ago. It's a bigger gender gap.
Could that be another Kansas, like what's happened in the Kansas referendum?
Potentially. That's the question. Is this Dobbs effect that we saw in Kansas, that we've seen in voter registration, would that last through Election Day? I think that's a big question. In Wisconsin, we're seeing it. In Georgia, African-American voters, especially African-American women, they're actually outpacing their numbers from the 2020 early vote. So some good early signs in both of those states for Democrats.
Any way that's helpful for Stacey Brady? Because,
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams, excuse me. Stacey Abrams, I'm talking about one of our executives, Stacey Brady. Stacey Abrams, of course, has been behind Brian Kemp in their rematch.
Yeah, absolutely. In the end, when you look at the winning coalition in Georgia and what delivered 2 Senate seats and the presidential in 2020, the electorate is beginning to look a lot like it did in 2020, which is a good sign for Abrams and Warnock.
Tom Bonnier, our numbers guy, thank you very much. And former Congressman Bob Brady, it's good to see you again. Go Phils. And, of course, Peter Baker, as always. Thanks to all.
Good to see you. Thank you. Stay well.